Let's talk to the coaches. I think first of all, a little benefit to start off with. Dylan, you've got a little announcement for us around the leadership group for the women's team this year.
Yeah, so I guess for the members who are here first, we've gone with our captain for the 2024 season is going to be Trilene Pomari, who was our captain for the last previous years as well. So we're blessed to have someone of her experience, but also her commitment to the club as well over the years. And she's going to have Michaela Leonard, who's also the Standing Wallaroos captain at the moment. So to have leadership from a national level, but also from a homegrown level as well, those two complement themselves really well around our leadership going forward.
Lovely deal. I'll follow up on that one because we've got a question from inaugural member Kia Martin. He asks, how is the team feeling regarding the new season?
Yeah, so they're pretty excited at the moment. We're going through a process at the moment where we train a lot more, we're in the building a lot more, and the girls are now experiencing what a professional rugby player looks like. So with that, there's teething issues around, I guess, the energy levels, the motivation levels at different times, just because now they're working out this is now their job. But also with that, they've found that this is really motivating for them to know that this could be a job going forward, and this is something that they can lead into be a full-time athlete going forward and be the first in Super Dub history to be that. So it's exciting, but the girls are challenging themselves really hard at the moment, and they're just working through that.
Beautiful deal. Cron, over to you. You've got an announcement to make. I know you've extended your contract recently. That got announced today. You've got another announcement for us?
Firstly, thank you all for coming on. I know you're all busy people, so I really appreciate your support. Another announcement for our members today is that the assistant coaches have also re-signed on in Mark Ozic and Will Eagleson, so they've re-signed on to make sure that there's consistency going forward. So I think that gets announced maybe tomorrow or the next day.
Yep.
So that's good news.
Following up on that, Cron, I've got a question from 10-year member Rob Hill. He asks, how do you think the trial matches have gone? Are you confident that pre-season has been enough prep?
Yeah, we had 2 pre-match. We obviously had an internal hit out, and then we went into 2 pre-season matches. The Reds one for us was good in that we had to travel over east, work on our preparation for away games. We've changed a few things there. That was successful. The game was good. We kicked away a little bit too much possession, especially when we were in the attacking half. So I put a full stop on that for some of our boys. And if we're kicking in that half, we score. If you don't score, then it's giving the ball away. So I shot a bullet there. I thought the second third for us was the area that we did that between the 30th and the 35th minute. We kicked the ball away 3 times. I was going to get a shotgun from the stands. So we just had to give them an understanding of opportunity costs. What opportunity do we lose when we do kick into the backfield and give them free ball? Well, we lose the opportunity for them to make tackles and for us to attack, and we don't want to be doing that in their half. So we just we dealt with that. Second game against the Brumbies, for us we had 4 or 5, 6 starters out, so it was an opportunity to challenge some of our boys. Our set piece was poor. On their ball, scrum time, just our connection in the front row, we got on our toes and ended up in survival mode rather than hit and chase and putting the pressure down on their front row. We made slipper kick out a couple of times, which is good for us, but then we held out on our toes and we were a little bit long, and that allowed them we recoiled and they came back on us. So there's a big fix for us this week.
Nice. Another one for you, Simon, from Dario Mradovic. He asks, what are your goals for the team in 2024? He says, for too long we've been so close in competing in finals and advancing through the knockouts. Will 2024 be different? And if so, how?
Yeah, mindset, skill set has changed. So in the sheds after we played the Brumbies on the weekend, the first thing I said to them was close enough's not good enough. We left out in the park, we should have won that game. We should have won that game by controlling possession more and building phase play pressure. So close enough's not good enough for this group, and never will be. So our expectations this year is, someone asked me half an hour ago, how many do you want to win? There's no number. I'm not going to say 5 out of 10 because that's just accepting average from the get-go. I think every game that we play, we're there to win. And with the development of the mindset and the squad depth that we're trying to build, there's still a young group in Parsons, so there'll be a little bit of a rocky road some games during controlling momentum, and there'll be some experiences like against the Reds that frustrate us a little bit, but it's then steering them back on the right path. So for us, every game that we go into, it's about us winning that game and the process to do that. So that's our expectations this year, is more consistent winning performances.
I'll pass over to Dylan. I've got a question from Stephen Sinclair. He says, firstly, congrats on your appointment. What specifics have you been working on with the squad in preparation for the new season?
Thanks, Stephen. So the main thing we've been working on is to tie in a little bit like what Crono's saying, like the skill set mindset is something that we focus on, but it's actually something that's completely new for our playing group because we've got club players, amateur players that are now learning to be professional. So that doesn't happen just because you get paid. There are habits and behaviours that come with that, and across the board it's just not technical and tactical. We're learning about nutrition and fueling and sleep. That allows us to have a recovery so then we can perform better the next day again. Learning about analysis, learning about mental skills, learning around leadership and communication. So at the moment we're in a big education area, and we've got games coming up pretty quickly, but a lot of our focus is this season, but also building the first full-time program for years to come. So it's not just a one-off success, it's sustainable success, and we'd be one of those clubs that everyone wants to come to because of that sustainable success. So a lot of learning, a lot of education. That's where we're challenging the girls in so many different ways at the moment.
Lovely. I've got a question from Rob Hill for you, Dylan, again. He says there's been some awesome signings this year. Who excites you the most in the group?
From the new signings, it's probably actually our front row club. We've got Ella Petton come across from the Reds, and also Huddenall come across from New Zealand, who's she's a sort of big time player who's come out of the Chiefs Manawa program. So that front row is going to be our sort of set piece marker to then set us into our backs and play off that. So we identified that front row was an area that we needed to not only have quality but also depth, because it's one of the most challenging, demanding positions in the team. So we know that allows us to have options, but also not overuse players as well, which we might have done in the past just because we're building depth in that space. So there are two players that have come in recently. Out of the ones that have been here, the young, exciting ones, we've got Sammy Wood coming through. Had a sort of first season last year, made a debut, but only had one game because of injury. She had a really good season across the FPC with Waikato with a few different Black Ferns, and she's come across after that with a lot of confidence that she's on the right path and she's really leading around some leadership now as a young player. And then we've also got Tamika Jones coming back from a long-term injury, who was on the Wallaroos sort of pony list last year, and then unfortunately broke her leg, but she's in full training right now. She's just ticked off her final markers around being able to get into games now as well, so we're really excited to see her back and have a 2024 season to remember. You've
stolen Daniel Scher's thunder because he was going to ask who are the young stars to look out for. You've kind of already answered that, so Daniel, that's all sorted. I'll go back to Chrono. I suppose on that similar topic, this pre-season, this is a question from Simon, I should say, from Nicholas Brown, pardon me. He says, who's been the player this pre-season to take the biggest jump from last pre-season?
We've had a number that I think have jumped a long way, like just in terms of their knowledge. One of the ones who I'd point out though, and you probably saw him evolving constantly through the year and the pressure we put on him, was Jeremy Williams. So Jeremy Williams for us is a guy who we developed into a line-out caller. He'd never called line-outs before. Played a lot of lock, and will play a lot of lock in six for us this year. I think he led by example. He's developing his mind, understanding of the game and when to control things, what to do. He was a big one for us, and there's a lot of other ones, by the way, that have come a long way. And last year, you look at Findsy getting this Wallaby opportunity. He talked a lot about the development of his rugby brain and what to do in certain scenarios and how important that was for him to be able to go into the Wallabies and not feel that he was out of his depth. So a lot of them are driving it.
You mentioned Findsy just then, Chrono. Got a question from Greg Darrett about him. He says, will Isaac Fines be the usual starter at halfback?
Greg, it'll be whoever's best for the team that week. And what I mean by that is, so like at the Wallabies level, you've got Nick White, you've got Tate McDermott, they have slightly different games. So it's whoever's best for the team. Not for me, not who's best for the team and who we're playing. So between the two halfbacks, they've both got strengths and there's both areas that they're constantly evolving. Nick White is brilliant at game management, great kicking game, and controls things. He's a real calm head. So, and it doesn't say, even though on the field he seems loud, our boys take a lot from that game management. Findsy is like lightning, right? He runs fast, still evolving in some of his kicking game stuff, but is lightning quick. So it's purely about who we're playing and what's going to be the best for the team. in that moment.
Another question about specific players has come from Daniel Sher. He says, if Sam Spink gets injured, who will be able to cover us at outside centre?
Great question. So Potts has been running at 13. So Potts has been really keen, and one of the reasons we brought him here was he wants to play 13. He wants to crack at 13. Defensively, he's really good at 13, and we've been working a lot on his catch pass so that he can play there. George Pullman can also go to 13 and did a bit for us that this year. So we've got two guys who can push in there. Bailey Quinzel also can play 13. He's explosive and fast. So all three of those guys. And at the moment, probably Potts and Bailey are pushing the cases.
Another question from Rob Hill for you, Crono. He's asking about Isaac Rodder. He's obviously had a horror run with injuries. How will he be managed this season?
Yeah, look, from the day I've come in, Paul Rods has had a tough run around the bone and the structure of his foot. He's found it really, really hard. Rugby players want to play rugby, and he hasn't been able to. So he tried to come back and injured it again at Wallaby Camp. He's been on they've changed the approach to his recovery. They actually cut his foot and restructured the bone so that they believe this is going to be a better outcome than what they've done in the past in trying to mend the different parts of his foot. So they restructured the foot so that the pressure won't go through the area that keep fracturing. So right now, he's actually looking light, he's looking good, he's training well in the contact zones. I just want to give him the best opportunity for him to be successful, and that's where making sure that he, one, feels no pressure from us, and two, just gets a lot of opportunity around the contact zone. So he needs to be able to clean guys out, smack people and use his big body. Right, so we're trying to give him a lot of opportunity there. Physios have a really clear plan. Like this week, for example, is a low load week for him. We have to decrease his running this week because apparently, not my area especially, around bone injury, we need to give him a deload week. So that's what this week is.
Good question from Gary in the chat. A live question. He says, why do Australian teams tend to have small fullbacks? And as a result, what chance is Pasatoa or Potter being bigger bodies of slotting in there?
Yep, definitely. Potts has been training obviously a lot there and played for us at Cheetahs level. George Pullman's 6'5", and we're working on him in the air. So just a little bit of inconsistency around him getting up in the air and even above his head, being able to catch things above his head on the run if we kick him across field. Both those guys are tall, big bodies. So we're looking at them both. Rajan at the moment is playing a lot of 12, and part of his coming back from his ACL was us working on his kicking game. So the only reason he's not getting as much time at 10 is getting consistency in his kicking game so that we can exit properly and kick long and kick out. So the key thing for us is to evolve and help his kicking game for him to be able to do 15 and 10.
Got a few more for Dill before we let him get to training, so if you've got any for Dill, just chuck it in the chat now. This one is from Brian Burrows. He says, do you find the tenacity of women in rugby more evident than that of men at times? We'll go with that first, and there's a follow-up question after that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's more or less, but one thing that they go hard at each other, but the big thing that we've found is the difference that we want to work on and need to work on because of the rules of the game or the laws of the game is the heights. Tackle height, carry height, clean height, the amount of red cards at like a Wallaroos level as an example. A lot of it's just coming down to those functional gym programs, allowing them to get stronger in lower body positions, being more functional in their movements, but then also just the application of that skill, working on the technique and making it actually something that we focus on, we talk about all the time. So we're working hard on that, and that's going to then allow them to be more effective in what they want to do with the intensity that they bring. So that's probably the biggest thing that we're trying to drive around the difference that I'm seeing right now in the men compared to the female. Is just they bring the same type of impact and intensity, it's just the height.
I feel like you've kind of answered the follow-up question, but I'll ask you anyway because there's a bit about setting goals. It says, will you be able to harness that enthusiasm as a group by setting goals throughout the season that will make them a force to be reckoned with in 2024?
Yeah, so the goals come back to the behaviours. Like we talk a lot around our language is around continuous improvement. So, we have a group that train more often, but that group's called our Kaizen group, and that's just all about that ongoing, continuous chipping away, little wins, but creating habits that actually stay for a long time. So that's what we know is going to make us successful for a long time, and part of that is educating the group on the reason why we do that and the importance behind it, and then just driving it constantly. And then as we know, people like to follow, so the majority we can get on that boat, then those other minority will start to come along on that journey as well. So that's our big goals at the moment, is create professional habits and behaviours, and then we'll start to see that transfer on the field.
Lovely. Last one for you, Dill, before we let you get to training. I know the girls are waiting for you. From Nicholas Brown, he says, do you feel that you're getting enough support from RA and Rugby WA to develop the women's game in WA, and talk about that connection, I suppose, with Rugby WA?
Yeah, so that's part of like what myself and Claudia Bell, who's the high performance manager for the female game here, see as something that's a responsibility for us as well, to drive not only the connection, which we get daily because we're in the same building as Rugby WA, but also then the quality of the competition in the women's comp needs to improve, and part of that improvement is more players sticking around to then be part of the club system. As we know then, when what we learn here and what we train here, we start to see out in the club as well. So we have a responsibility around that for our players to then go back in the clubland and drive what they learn here, and really lead out in clubland for us and improve the level. But then part of that is from an RA point of view, they're doing what they can around the support, and they've got some limitation around that, but our big focus is what we can control, and what we can control is driving us to have the most resource best program that we can have here in the Super W competition. And if we keep leading the way there, then others will have to then keep needing to follow and step up in their areas. So that's our focus, is to develop our program, and then others will follow from there.
Lovely, mate. We'll let you get to training, so thanks for your time.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
See you, Dills.
See you, mate. Thank you. Cron, I've got a few more for you, but also a couple coming through in the live chat.
Yep, no problem.
One from Vera on the chat. She says, how do you think the culture among the players has changed over the last season, both male and female?
Yeah, look, the male and female team definitely this year, in terms of both teams being in the building a little bit more, has been really good. We had a big group get together where we, what I call speed dating. We do it in the men's team all the time. We speed date each other for 90 seconds. And the reason we do that is to get to know each other. So for example, I'll say you got 90 seconds and I'll speed date Benny, and at the end of 90 seconds I've got to learn as much as I can about your family, where you're from, what you do. And we did that with the girls team this year. We just rotated them around so that the boys and the girls feel a little bit more comfortable with each other. Last year we were a little bit like passing nights, passing ships in the night, because we came at different times. Whereas I want them to be comfortable with each other so that the girls can come and ask the boys around their game and vice versa. So there's actually genuine interest in each other. So that's one. Culturally, it's always from the outside in or from the players that you want. I feel like it's changing, but the big thing for me is that's, from a coaching perspective, we can see they're much tighter. So they're spending more time together away from the game. One of the big things for us is there's a thing called cohesion rating. Western Force have a low cohesion rating, and the reason why is changeover. So what I want to do is create it so that in the team now, with proper forward planning to squad lists and proper preparation, there's less turnover each year, so they get more time together. However, what I needed to do this year was show them, hey, these are the different ways in which you can increase your cohesion. And the boys are spending a lot more time together. And the reason why is they actually like each other. They actually get on. That's important. There's a real love for each other. So the other day, George Pullman was walking down the stairs, and I said to him, how are you feeling? How are you going? He's young. And he goes, oh, Cron, it's so much better than this time last year. And I said, oh, okay. And when someone says that, you always just, why? And he said, we're going to play the Reds, and it doesn't matter who I room with because we all get on. And I said, well, that's good news, mate. That's what I like to hear. So let's be realistic. Any team sport, any game, you play better for the person standing next to you if you care for them and you want to play for them. Because you want to bleed for the guy standing next to you will be better. Because then you're accountable to them. There's some ownership between each other. So the feedback from the players right now is we're way closer now and way better, which is positive.
Nice. I'll ask you one about strategy and set pieces from Angus Tibbetts. He says, to set the context, firstly, I often find that we're outgunned in the set pieces. We fight like hell to secure the ball and then almost immediately kick it back, only to fight for it again and often not get it back before the next score against us, etc. What are your thoughts on that? How do you rectify that?
Yeah, look, last season, we had a little bit of a depth issue around our tight five. Tight five for us was an area, like you probably saw me bringing Thrushy back at the start of the season, is not because he's a great man, and he's a tight 5 lock, cleans rucks, makes tackles, pushes in the scrum, jumps the line out. Now with Rod's out last year and a couple of other things, we were really light in that front row. So what we had to do in the tight 5 is we had to get everything perfect. We couldn't let one guy take their foot off the ground or we get peeled. Like if you compare the size of some of the teams we were playing against versus what we had in the tight 5, we were hurting. However, the boys stuck in the fight and we actually did relatively well statistically. But you're right, it was always survival. Now we've got to be able to dominate set piece. So trying to create a squad list where we've got 2 or 3 deep in tight head and loose head. We've lost a couple of loose heads in the pre-season which hurt us in the weekend. But also adding depth at hooker, at lock. If Rods can come back in, that'd be great for us. So we need to become, we're a year on now around our set piece, and there's quite a lot of skill set there, but they're stronger. We're definitely stronger and more confident to bring guys onto the field. Then the kicking away part, you really only want to be kicking in exit zones where you're wanting to control territory. We don't want to be kicking away in our half, in the attacking half, and we did a little bit of that at times, where players they get the ball and they think, nothing's on, I'll kick. Can't have that. I'd rather them carry down an edge, get a one-on-one and stretch the defence. So we've done a lot of work on that in the pre-season and showing them the why, the what, the how. Still a constant work on still every day, but they're getting much better.
Got a live question from Nicholas Brown, Crow. He says, who do you think from the Force is pushing the most for a Wallabies call-up this year and the Lions tour next year that hasn't previously been involved in a Wallabies setup?
Look, one of the things we said as a team, and this is between us obviously, so when the Wallabies got knocked out of the World Cup, I felt like I had to address that immediately in our team. And the reason why is that can be quite deflating for the player, it can be quite deflating for the country and the state. So what we did in our team meeting is I said to the boys, okay, this has happened, what are you going to do about it? And I just left them to meet in their little groups and come back and present to me about what we're going to do about it. And what we're going to do about it is not jump on the bandwagon and complain and moan. We're the next tier of rugby players, so we need to step up. And what that looks like is winning games and winning rugby and standards, expectations, professionalism. We can drive those things. And then the third thing I said to them is I think there's between 7 and 9 Wallabies sitting in that room right now who will play in the 2027 World Cup. Between 7 and 9. And I'm not talking about the wider training squad, I'm talking about the squad for the 2027 World Cup. Now there'll be other guys this year in the next 12 months that'll start to step up and put their hands up and put themselves on the radar. That's what we're going to do. But we're going to develop the Wallabies from inside our squad, and I think we've got guys in the squad who can do that. Now the only reason I'm not throwing names at you is I probably have a rough idea of who could get there, but I don't want to leave anyone out. Our job has to be to develop Wallabies, and there's a number of guys, I look at the sheets and the players we've got now that I think if we do our job right and they're driven, we'll get them there.
Nice. I got another question for you, Chrono, from Brian Burrows. He asks, given the extent of the playing group, their experience, their fitness level, would it be fair to assume that you would not have to put anyone on the field that is carrying the slightest injury?
Oh, I'd love that to happen, Brian. I'd love that to happen. But I don't think you play many games where you're not carrying something as a rugby player. Like, we talk a lot about, like I was lucky enough overseas in coaching guys like who have internationally been some of the best in the world. Kieran Reid, Peter Steffertoy. Now, they never take the field without a niggle. Like if I said to them, hey, how many games have you played at 100% fit? They would say 1 or 2 a year. There is a knee tweak, there's always, because of the contact, there's always niggles. Now there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Rugby players have to play hurt sometimes versus injured, where there's like a tear or a hamstring or something that just stops you from playing. So boys will play with niggles and they'll be fine. It's just making sure that we don't play them when they're injured. And that's where we've got to create the depth.
On that topic, Rob Hill asks, is Nick White close to playing in round 1?
Yep. Yeah, he is. In fact, today, Whitey, my hardest thing with Whitey's stopping him at times. So he had the tendon cut, that's just 3 weeks, and he'll be available at this stage for round 1 if he keeps progressing on his contact. And for me, it's I have to sit him down every day and tell him, okay, can I just hold you? I just have to keep pulling the reins back. So he just wants to pass and pass and pass, and it's just building the passing load. And then today we have an orange contact, which just means body in front, versus a green light, which is full contact. There was a guy carrying the ball and Whitey green lighted him, so folded him over. So he's looking pretty good for round one in terms of availability.
A couple more. One from Gary Sher, who asks, and you've talked about Rajan a little bit, but he says, having watched the 2 trial games, it appears that Rajan is being seen as a 12 now. Is there any likelihood that he may be used as a 15, as Stewart looks good at 12 and Donaldson looks good at 10?
No, you're right. Rajan's secondary positions at the moment, he's at 12, he's a big, strong, ball-carrying body. You saw that against the Brums. The big part for him to be able to cement himself at 10 or 15 is kicking game and consistency of kicking game. So being able to, on penalties, kick long and get us position. During the game and the ball's in play, being able to hit grass. So that's one thing. The other thing with Rajan is he's really, because he's had 12 months out of the game, so he's still getting a feel for even an attack. Someone comes up in the eye line, just letting him trust his skills, because he will have a tendency to default to look and then run. So just giving him confidence, and he will get that by more trainings and more playing. Can he play 15? Yeah, he can. Again, it's the kicking game for us. Great man, great man.
Last one on our list, Cron, unless we get some live questions in the meantime. It's from Angus Tibbetts. He says, when we have the benefit of a yellow, we seem to forget that our advantage only lasts 10 minutes, and we stroll around and often look to go to a set piece, which our opponents exploit, and after several resets, half the card time is over. In my book, time is of the essence. Are these elements that your coaches are alive to and working on, and are they tactics that will continue to be employed?
Great man, rugby brain. So the game you're talking about, Highlanders, we got a yellow card, we mauled them, we got one of them yellow carded, we got a penalty again, and the rugby brain automatically tells you they're one down, we got them on a maul, he had to yellow card them, go to the maul again. And the reason why is you're forcing the referee to have to make decisions on yellow cards here. We called a scrum. We, as in the leaders on the field, called a scrum because their mindset was, oh, they're one down. Then there was a reset, another scrum, and that's a rugby brain. So I totally agree with you. When there is a yellow card, we have to play up-tempo rugby. We do not want to slow it down. They do. So what can we do with this yellow card? We don't even need to wait for the line out. If the ball gets kicked out, quick throw and play. If there's a maul where we've got a yellow card, go to the maul. If we were having a yellow card from a scrum, only then would you go back to a scrum. Because you're forcing the referee to either make a decision around a secondary yellow card or a red. So that's kind of just getting the rugby brains to understand that. And again, people in our environment that have experience in those things like Nick White help in those decisions.
Got a couple come through in the meantime here, Chrono, so I'll ask you about the injured props. Angus Wagner, Sifa Amoni and Harry Hoopert, how are they travelling?
Yeah, so we had an internal hit out. Harry Hoopert was when he came to us, had a lot of development in him and was doing brilliantly. Beautiful change of body shape, square, bigger, stronger. And then in one of the mauls, he just took a wee extension of the knee, which tweaked one of his tendons on his knee, and it puts him out now for a number of months, which hurts us at Lucid. At the same time, Angus Wagner had an ongoing long-term knee, grumbly knee, that ultimately needed another surgery, so he then is out. So the two Lucids for us hurt us a little bit there. So it's just making sure that we can continue to upskill the other boys. Then Sifa Amoni has been really unfortunate. We haven't had a chance to coach him since Super Rugby last year. He had a bad knee, had operated on. We thought we'd have him for the 2 months leading into pre-season. That operation, there was another flap that they needed to go in on, so it took him out again. So it's just, for us, for him to develop, we need to coach him. And we haven't had our hands on him. So we're really trying to get him back in a position where we can help him develop as a player, because he's only still a young buck.
Go on from Jay Townsend. I think we're planning on announcing this later in the week. He's asking about the leadership and the captains. What are your thoughts on the leadership?
Yeah, we are going to be announcing it on Friday, I think, at the season launch. Look, at the moment, we're looking to we're bringing on a what I would call a distribution model of leadership, and what that looks like is spreading some of the leadership so that it's not all on one person. There's a top tier leadership group that'll get announced on Friday, and I've got to look at the future of the club. Who can I make? Who can we look at? Who's going to be here for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years and really be the best captain we've ever had? So I'm looking at how we can plan for the future. But then for me to be able to do that, I need to make sure that I put the right people around that person for him to be successful. And I need to make it so that he doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders so he can still perform. The biggest risk, and people forget about it, the biggest risk about giving a captain a job and becoming the captain is it can become a burden to performance. It can become a burden to performance. And what I mean by that is if they start focusing on the team and everything about the team, they forget their own performance, that drops off and then they can't be on the field. So the key thing for me is to set him up, or the player up who's going to be our captain, to be successful, put people around him who will help him on field to be able to answer questions and take away. And nobody can get to the captain without going through these people because they're more hard-nosed. And then also having attacking defensive drivers that'll help drive the game and give you technical, tactical feedback the whole time. So that's kind of the model we're working on. It's been something I've been thinking about now since middle of Super Rugby last year, and it's been giving guys growth opportunities to be able to get to that position. And the best example I have is Michael Hooper. So when I was coaching Hoops, one thing that happened with Michael was he was so focused on the team he forgot about himself. So I said to him, on Thursday it becomes, what does Michael Hooper need to do to be the best player on Saturday? And it's all about Michael Hooper from Thursday, end of Thursday training until Saturday. Nothing to do with the team. Team is Monday, Tuesday, have the hard conversations, get that done. Thursday there's a little bit of planning, but then you've got to transition out into what does Michael Hooper need to do to be the best player on Saturday. And you know, and every person I've ever met battles with making sure that they still focus on their performance.
Got a few coming through, so I will get through them before we finish up. One from DM, he's asking about Tom Robertson. Obviously went off to Oxford for the sabbatical. When's he due back?
Yeah, Robbo's back at the end of the Super Rugby season, so just his sabbatical, he did his AC as well, so unlucky for him. He just got married most recently, so he'll be back at the end of the Super Rugby season and therefore available for us into next Super Rugby season, which is great. We'd love to have him now. Most recent feedback was at his wedding. Santi Medrano called me up and said he's looking a bit small, Crono, he's got too small for his wedding, can we give him a call and put him back on the tin, pushing weights? So I just sent him a message to make sure he remembers he's a rugby player. He looked good at his wedding, but I just need him to keep his weights up so that when he comes back we have some decent size. So we're on him, don't worry.
One from Nicholas Brown, he says, how important was strengthening the forward pack this season and what players in terms of characteristics and attributes were you looking for?
We needed, so defensively last year, one of the things that really hurt us was a lack of confidence in the guys standing next to you if they were slow around the field. So defence is all about confidence. Defence is about coming off the line fast and taking away time and space. We did that relatively well against the Brumbies off our line on the weekend. Now, during last Super Rugby season, there were some players that were not confident on the person on their inside. Now what that does to you is it stops you. You can't go because you feel isolated, you feel like you're defending as an individual. So what we look for in our forwards is guys who can repeat effort. Get around the corner, come off the line fast. Get around the corner, come off the line fast. Make a tackle, get off the ground, stay alive. Get off the ground, make another tackle. So we've added guys into our squad that people want to defend next to. That's what we've done. Now, we're there yet fully? No, but we've definitely got a much better number of players who can do that now.
Lucky last question, Chrono, from Brian Burrows. He is talking about kicking again. He says, do we have a left foot kicker to take advantage when kicking for touch?
Chase Tia's left foot. So Chase Tia in the last 2 trial games, I've put him on our left wing. 2 main reasons. He's a great voice and a great leader on field, so he gives confidence from communication from the outside in. We could a little bit at times last year be mute and quiet. Now, the reason I talk about that is your wingers and your centres are responsible for checking out the backfield and scanning the field for us to make good decisions. the first 5 cannot. He's in charge of the forwards and what's in front of him. He can't be looking everywhere. It's impossible. So Chase gives us a lot of really good communication on the edge, and is a massive left foot kick, and we've been working on consistency of that kick in the whole pre-season. So even in the weekend on the left edge, you got the ball right on the sideline and just boomed it all the way down. Also gives us an option for wipers. It's a double pass and kicking off that left side. So yeah, he's our one left foot kicker.